So outrage has escalated to death threats. That's right, death threats against some of the staff at the Copenhagen Zoo. So by now you've probably heard about Marius the giraffe. He was shot dead yesterday by a veterinarian. Marius wasn't sick, he wasn't old. He was, in the zoo director's words, part of a surplus problem. The zoo said it had too many giraffes with the same genes. Marius was killed to avoid inbreeding. That's the scientific rationale they gave, but it's what happened next that really stoked a lot of this outrage. An autopsy was done in front of an audience that included children. Then Marius's body was cut into pieces. We're going to show you what the zoo did with the meat, but we warn you these images are disturbing. Marius was fed to the zoo's lions and to the other big cats there. Again, all this in front of children. The zoo called it a learning opportunity. Jack Hanna is the director emeritus at the Columbus Zoo. He joins me tonight. Jack, most of the times we speak with you, it's a feel-good animal story, but I spoke to you earlier today, and I've never heard you so upset about anything. You say this is one of the most horrifying things you've ever heard about in your entire life.
It is, and the words, just real quick if you don't mind, and it's just here, grotesque, abominable, insensitive. I could go on with the words, but let's let that alone right now. And it is, it's probably unbelievable. And why is that? As a matter of fact, I just heard an interview where the person over there said, this is a culture, maybe a cultural difference. No, this isn't a cultural difference. Yes, when I go to Africa, I film certain countries there, they do have the giraffe as a consumption food, okay? But that's in people that are way out in the middle of nowhere. This is in a zoological park where animals are there to educate our young people and our adults, all of us, educate all of us about this beautiful animal, the giraffe, or whatever animal it might be. There were hundreds of people that wanted to take this giraffe, including myself at our zoo and or the wilds and or many people in Europe. And so you tell me why they did this. I don't think anybody could tell you why. I can't.
You said this kept you up at night. The zoo says yes. It was to prevent inbreeding. They do say they have a scientific reason here. They say they need to manage the population in the right way of the giraffes at this zoo and others in Europe.
That's exactly correct. If they have too many giraffes, like they're saying, right, why do they keep breeding the same genetic the giraffe this way, that same genetic line? Why do they do that, number one? Number two, if they do have a giraffe that they don't want to breed and stop it, it's very simple. There's castration, there's all kinds of birth control. Some might tell you that you can't do that to giraffe. Fine. I can tell you the Columbus Zoo in the wilds does not do this, and we never will. We could find a home for this giraffe very easily, and so can they over there. They were offered, did you know, one man I think offered $500,000 to save this giraffe and give it a home. So what are they doing here? Maybe I can't figure it out after all these years working with animals, because right now it's hard for me to give you the answer, especially taking it, and they said they shot it. Well, that's great. And then they said that, I could think from what I've seen in the pictures, they cut it up and then they took it next door after they did the autopsy. Why do an autopsy? And then they took it next door and fed it to the lions.
The head of the zoo says this was meant to be educational. And a little earlier today, he spoke to our Brooke Baldwin. Let's listen to what he said.
This is the real thing. And when we then feed it to the lions afterwards, I mean, this is just either we feed them a horse or a cow. They have to get their meat. They're carnivores. Mm-hmm. And now we could feed them a giraffe. I don't see any problem in that. I mean, this is what's happening in Africa. It can happen in Copenhagen as well. And I think the kids, they need to see sometimes what the real world is.
So let's just review. They shot the giraffe in the head, they cut it up, and they fed it to the lions and the leopards. It sounds horrible when you say it like that.